everyone, welcome back to my channel. As you guys can see, we got a new bookshelf. I am going to do a full-blown bookshelf tour. I was gonna do a vlog about it, but that didn't happen, sorry. But today it is our December wrap up. I read a total of 8 books in the month of December. Some of those books were ARCs sent to me by publishers, which I am super grateful for. So I am going to be talking about those books as well in this video. But yeah, I'm going to start rambling again because that's ADHD. That's just what I do. So let's get into the video. So the first book that I read for December, it is the X Hex by Erin Sterling. This book, it is about a witch named Vivian, and Vivian is having a hard time. She just broke up with the love of her life. She is having a hard time. She's having her pity party in her bathroom, and her cousin Gwen is like, girl, let's just like put a little hex on him to teach him a lesson. Gwen's like, okay, sure. You know, they had a little bit of drinks in their system. They were feeling a little petty, so they decided to put a hex on Vivian's ex-boyfriend, who is Rise Penhollow. So now Mr. Penhollow, he is like basically his family is the creators of the town. They're super popular, super rich, super in charge. So they put this little hex on him. They weren't serious about it. They were just like, oh, we hope that he never pleases a woman. We hope that like he just has a terrible time. And that's that. Events happen and Rise ends up back in town, and Vivian and him cross paths, and while they cross paths, the town of Graves Glen, which is where they live, is starting to get a little bit freaky. Things are getting a little weird. So now things are getting a little complicated. Rise and Viv have to get together to break this curse, basically, because he's like, listen, our town is going to die if we don't break this curse, because my family created this town. You'll find out more about that in the book. So the two have to work together, sparks start flying, and it's a good time. It's a real good time. You guys know I wasn't too big into romances, but I'm starting to get a little bit more into romance. So I thought this one would be a really interesting read, considering there is a little bit of mystery in there, spell casting, you know, the things I like. I gave this book a 4 out of 5 because her cousin Gwen, when you guys read this book and you read about her, she's my spirit animal. Gwen is just amazing. Can we just get a separate book that talks about Gwen and just her amazingness of amazingness? I would really appreciate that. Homegirl was on her stuff, and I love a girl who's on her stuff, okay? So the next books I read, this is a series. It is the Shannon Merchant series by Tessa Weggert. So this book, it is about a woman named Shanna, and Shanna is a detective. She had a very traumatizing past where she was kidnapped by a serial killer and tortured basically in his basement for weeks on end. But this serial killer actually killed, I believe it was 8 women previously, and Shanna was the one he kept alive, and he kept her alive for a reason. So I did read this entire series, and it was amazing. I recently read the 3rd installation, Dead Wind, and it was very kindly given to me by the publisher to read and review, which is what I did. And you guys, I am so obsessed with this series. I cannot tell you. I really do like a good detective serial killer mystery, just because I feel like we really get to see how these cases affect the detectives. Even if it is fiction, I feel like it gives a good representation of the trauma that the detectives go through when it comes to these kind of cases, and the twisty tale and connection that Shanna has to this case. There were times where I was just so mad at Shanna. I was like, you are literally causing problems for no reason. You could solve this and just be done with it. But she didn't. But that's besides the point. Either way, I was so happy with how the series turned out, and the author actually messaged me on Goodreads and told me that there is going to be a 4th book coming out, and I was just like, I can't handle it. I can't handle it, because the 3rd book makes it seem like it's over, it's done. But nay. She told me there's a 4th book coming out, and I'm excited for it. I'm not gonna miss that, and I would not miss it for the world. Let me just tell you that right now. So if you guys are looking for a really twisty mystery thriller, FBI detective, you know, serial killer crime, Tessa Weggert's Shannon Merchant series, that one is one you should give a try. So the next book that I read, it is the Apothecary Diaries 3 by Natsu Huyaga. I think that's what it is. If you guys know, I have been reading the Apothecary Diaries for a while now. This one is the 3rd book in the series, even though it is out already overseas. It's just being translated to English. That was a hiccup. Sorry. So this book, it is about a girl who works in an apothecary, and she is sent to basically be a food tester food taster tester in the royal palace. And while she is there, there's a lot of things going on in this royal palace that is a lot, that basically drags her into a world that she really didn't have anything to do with. She's trying to save money for her family, she's trying to help her father, and she was just like, I'm just trying to taste this food and you guys are making this way more complicated. But there's romance in here, there's murder, there's mystery, and also this book is actually really hilarious because our main character, this girl's got some spunk to her. Basically, like, they bully this girl to the heavens and back, but she comes out on top. I mean, like, this girl's got guts. This girl's got guts to her. She's super spunky, and it's like I said, it's really funny. It's just really great humor. It's kind of like humor from Spy Family. That's what this is. So if you want to take a look at it, the Apothecary Diaries by Natsuhiyuga, that one, it is great. The next book that I read, it is Gone for Good by Joanna Schaffhausen. This book, it is about a detective named Annalisa Vega, and she is on the case for the lovelorn killer who murdered 7 women and left them basically hogtied in their apartments. And he left some clues around the apartment, you know, kind of like as a calling card, and leaving them at the scene and also sending them into newspapers. But after his latest kill, he stops and he goes missing and just disappears for 20 years. Until 20 years later, it happens again, and Annalisa Vega is on the case because she actually knows one of the victims that he attacked, and it is like this kind of armchair detective. She is found dead in her apartment the exact same way that the other victims were, and as they come to find out, she was actually researching the lovelorn killers herself. And this is actually in the book. I'm not spoiling anything, but she was investigating them herself, and they are trying to figure out what was it that she was so onto where she lost her life for it. But as Annalisa gets closer to the case, she is starting to get targeted by the killer himself. But I'm super excited for the next book to be coming out. I believe it comes out August 22nd for this one, and it's just the aftermath of the case for the first one, which I want to see how they work out, because that one, it blew a lot of relationships, it blew a lot of stuff out of just its threads. So I want to see how the author continues this on in the next book. So yes, that one was great. So the next book I read, it is The Night Shift by Alex Finley. Now this book, it is not released yet, but I did receive a ARC from the publisher, and thank you so much to the publisher for sending me and letting me read this ARC. I gave this book a 4.5 out of 5. It was phenomenal, and I mean phenomenal. Okay, so here's the deal. It's 1999, it's New Year's Eve, Y2K is about to happen, and at the Blockbuster store there is a group of employees and the manager, and they are working their shift, they're doing their thing. But somebody comes in to the Blockbuster and attacks everybody in the store and kills them except for one person, and he says something to her that she will remember for the rest of her life. And it is, "Good night, pretty girl." So the police identify the suspect, who they believe is the killer, but he goes missing. He flees, and they don't hear from him for 15 years. Now, 15 years later, the exact same thing happens in an ice cream parlor where everyone in the store is attacked and one is left alive. And he tells her something very chilling. "Good night, pretty girl." So now here it is back, it's 15 years later, and the police are back to solving this mystery that happened 15 years prior, and some unlikely people come together to work on this case, and it is the brother of one of the victims from the first killing, and then also an FBI detective who is back on the case before she goes on maternity leave. Now, I really love this book. I read Alex Finley's first book, Every Last Fear, and it wasn't his first book, but it's the first book that I read. I read Every Last Fear, and I really feel like the clue, he made it a lot harder to figure out who it was at the end of the book, which I loved. I really saw his progression in the book, which was amazing. Now this book, it was heart-wrenching. It is a very heart-wrenching book. You're gonna be so sad, and at the end of the book, it's just like, it's kind of just like, yay, they blah blah, but oh man, like that had to happen. You know what I mean? It's like one of those kind of books, and I'm not going to spoil it for you, but I really loved this book, I was very, very, very excited to see that Alex Finley was coming out with something like this. And it's just really cool to see how his writing has changed from the first book that I read to this one. I think this one had a lot more suspense and thriller in it, and I mean a lot more suspense. There was a lot more detail. There was a lot more, you know, thrilling scenes in there. I thought it was great. I was here for it, and I cannot wait to see what else Alex Finley comes up with. And the last book that I read for the month of December, it is A Flicker in the Dark by Stacey Willingham. So this book, it is about a woman named Chloe Davis, and when Chloe Davis was 12, there were 6 teenagers that went missing in her small Louisiana town, and that was a very, very hard time for her and her brother, because it is implied that her father is the one that killed those 6 teenagers. So now it's 20 some odd years later, and Chloe is now a psychologist in Louisiana, and she's just trying to pick up the pieces of her life. She's trying to keep things together, and I believe she also changes her name so that way she separates herself from her father. Now Chloe has a older brother. He's also trying to separate himself from his father, and they are just trying to get their lives together. But something happens, and another teenage girl in Chloe's town goes missing, and the clues that are left behind are the exact same way that her father, quote unquote, left the victims and left behind at the scenes. So Chloe is really having a hard time dealing with this, because she did suffer from PTSD from the killings from her father, and just dealing with the trauma of growing up with a broken family. But the thing is, even though Chloe wants to separate herself from this case, she is the only one who can help the police, because she had lived with a killer her entire life, and nobody knows her father more than she does. So to get closure for herself, Chloe kind of sneaks in there and she starts investigating some of the killings, but things start happening and the killer starts to try and get Chloe's attention herself. So she's thinking, is this my father or is this a copycat? What does this have to do with me? And all the secrets she has tried so hard to bury start coming up to the surface. Now, I did kind of guess the scenario and the killer within like the first, I forgot what page I was on. I think I wrote down what page I was on when I figured it out. Not saying that like everybody will figure it out like this early on, but that was just me, because you guys already know I read this stuff for breakfast, so it takes a lot to get me to be confused. And it was so funny, I told my boyfriend and he was just like, you are psycho, you could just smell a book and figure it out. But regardless of me kind of guessing what happened in the beginning, I still read it through and I really, really loved this book. It really makes you believe one thing. It's like you're believing everything along with the character, but then at the end you really start to, like, you feel like you are the character, because then you feel betrayed. I was feeling betrayed, and I'm not even this girl. I'm not this girl. I was just really annoyed by something at the end of the book that the main character revealed. And I don't know if this was just like a memory that she forgot, but it came back up and I was like, girl, are you for real? That was the only thing that I was annoyed by. But I thought it was great because it still added that suspense to it. You know what I mean? Yeah. All right, you guys, that is it. That is the end of the video and all of the books that I read for the month of December. I had set my reading goal last year to read 75 books and I read 85. So this year I'm going to up it up to 100, because I do believe I can hit 100. I don't know. And if I don't hit it, I'm not going to be upset with myself. But I'm just super excited for the new year and what's to come, you guys. I know I really do want to create more content for you guys. That is one of my main priorities, is to be with you guys more and do more read-alongs. So I will be announcing my read-along this week, so that way you guys can join me, grab whatever book you want. I don't really have a theme for this one. Just grab whatever book you want and we'll talk about it in my live stream. And in honor of Monty the Monstera, let's leave some plant emojis. Whatever plant emoji you guys want to leave for Monty here, let's leave one down for him. I think that'd be cute. I will see you all in my next video. You guys have a good day. Bye.